Hello everyone, All 22 and a few film review, giving you guys the next episode of Draft Wraps, my draft class series where we dive deep into all 32 teams' classes, giving you guys grades based on how I feel according to my big board, where they were taken, according to who else was on the board, everything as far as rankings, grades, projections, path to starting. Anything you want to know about your favorite team's draft class, stick around because it's going to be in this video or in one of the future teams videos down the line, and I'm going to be shipping those out as soon as I can after this weekend, so you guys don't have to wait a month or two to see your guys' favorite team. But without further ado, let's get into the Bengals here, my 30th class overall. Also, forgot to mention in the last video, if you have any questions about anything you're seeing on your screen about where I get any of this information, it's all in the description. It's going to have explanations about everything, about the grades, the abbreviations, all that. All the basic stats come from either the school's prospects website or the NFL.com site, since those two sites usually are pretty congruent with each other. And a lot of other sites, kind of track their own stats, and I don't want anyone getting confused. So for congruency reasons, all the basic stats come from those two sites. The more advanced stats, kind of like pass rating allowed, sacks allowed, kind of stuff like that, is from PFF, from their free stats they give out, so shout out to them. Without further ado, again, let's get into the Bengals class here. Now, overall, I gave this class a B-, a 2.835 for my numerical grade that I get from my equation, putting all these picks and giving them beneficiary factors for hitting needs, day 3 guys being able to compete for roster spots, or not roster spots, but roles and significant snaps right away. The Bengals get a B-, not a terrible grade, but still number 30 in this class, not one of the better ones. Like I said in the other two videos, I think this was a good drafting class for the NFL this year, so a lot of pretty decent grades going out. Not a ton of high-end like A+, but it's going to be a lot of Bs, a lot of B+, a lot of A-. It was a good year overall. But let's dive into their class. They got Shamar Stewart, an edge out of Texas A&M, with their first pick. Demetrius Knight, a linebacker out of South Carolina, with their second pick. Dylan Fairchild, a guard out of Georgia, with their third. Barrett Carter, a linebacker out of Clemson, their fourth pick. Jalen Rivers, a tackle/guard out of Miami, with their fifth pick. And with their sixth and final pick, Taj Brooks, a running back out of Texas Tech. So like I said, this one isn't going to be super long, only 6 picks here, but let's get into it. Shamar Stewart, an edge out of Texas A&M at 17. No trade value here, they just sat and picked. I really wanted them to go for a Derek Harmon here, maybe get a Kelvin Banks that could compete for guard right away and maybe move out to tackle after one of your tackles leaves. Edge is definitely something I wanted them to grab. Definitely wanted them to get edge. I wanted them to go after edge 100%, after interior O-line, and after interior D-line. This is one of their top 3 needs, so I do like it in that sense. He was number 40 on my big board, that BBR Big Board Ranking right there, so the true value isn't great to me. He was my 4th edge taken off the board, or he was my 7th edge, the 4th one taken off the board. So I had a few edges ahead of him, but all those guys that are kind of ahead of him are smaller body type dudes. You're thinking of James Pierce, you're thinking Mike Green, you're thinking Donovan Ezaraku. Not the typical edge mold they like. You think of Sam Hubbard and Trey Hendrickson. Those guys are a little bit longer. Shamar Stewart, you see the 10 perfect RAS score there, 6'5", 267, absolute freak tester. He actually played a lot heavier on tape, but I think dropping weight will help him because he does like to try to bend the edge even if he isn't super great at it. You see the production, only 1.5 sacks. That was the biggest kind of argument about Shamar Stewart. He is the perfect prototype for the traits versus production debate, where this guy is 6'5", 267, insane measurables, ran like a 4.58 at that size, like 40.5-inch vert over a 10-foot broad, just super explosive. You see the explosiveness on tape, just super raw, not a lot of production, a lot of pressures and, getting close to the quarterback, but not finishing at all. Not a whole lot of finish or flashing the ability to show how to finish on his tape. That's why I had him so low. Just day one, he's still going to start for them. He's still going to be A+ run defender. I would say down the line, down the season, he's going to be a plus run defender. He's just got to see the game a little bit better. But he has all the physical tools, flashes the ability to defend against the run. Sometimes he just gets himself out of place or pushes a little bit upfield. This isn't a terrible spot for him. Someone with these traits, they're going to get taken high. It's just a little bit high for me. But they need edge. I would love for them to get someone that knows what they're doing right away, because they need someone that knows what they're doing right away. And they already took a guy in Miles Murphy who was a little bit more flashy, a little bit more traitsy, a little bit more of a projection last year, and hasn't shown a ton for them yet. So you're adding another kind of big body rusher to that room that's really traitsy. If both those guys can come together and hit, that's a really good edge room. But if both of these guys end up not hitting their max potential, then you're just looking at 2 early down guys on the outside, and the 17th pick is really not going to be worth it. I gave this a B+ because, again, it is a position of need. His upside is immaculate. He can be such a good rusher if he can hit his ceiling. But he still has a pretty decent ways to go, in my opinion. That's why I had him ranked so low. But not a bad pick. Like I said, position of need, super high ceiling. Going to play for them early, but you really need him to hit his ceiling for this to be worth the pick, in my opinion. The next pick, Demetrius Knight, a linebacker, South Carolina, taken with the 49th pick, the 17th pick of round 2. He came in at 77 on my big board. He was the 3rd linebacker taken off the board and my 2nd linebacker. So in terms of true value, it's not great, but positionally, he was the best linebacker on the board for me by far. Or not by far, but he is the best linebacker on the board for me. I had a true 3rd round grade on him, but this was a super thin linebacker class. Jahad Campbell goes at the end of round 1, and then Carson Sweshen goes at the top of round 2. You have to get him right now, or you can't get him later. I wanted them to go after linebacker in this class. Tremaine Pratt's probably on his way out the door after this season, so you need someone else in that room. Demetrius Knight shows some good size in 6'2", 235. You're not going to get a whole lot of 6'4", 6'3", 6'5" middle linebackers anymore that are like 240 plus. The game's just kind of moving away from that direction. Not bad size still. Has some pretty good movement. On tape, he had some pretty good movement. I liked it, and backed up by the 8.58 RAS score. What is concerning about him is even though I think of the linebackers left, he is the most day one ready. He can defend against the run. He can get off blocks. He flashes a little bit in the passing game. But he's not a perfect prospect. There's a real reason he's going at the spot, and a real reason I had him as a true 3rd round grade, 77th ranked on my board. He still has a decent bit to go and a decent bit to learn. And for a linebacker that's going to be 25 when he hits his rookie season, that's a little bit scary, because by the time he really starts seeing the game fluently, maybe 2, 3, sometimes even 4 years down the line for some linebackers, he's going to be hitting his late 20s, and his athleticism is going to be starting to dip. Very kind of unfortunate. Linebacker is just a super difficult position to play at the next level. It's really hard for young guys or rookies to come in and learn the game super fluently and be a plus starter early. A lot of guys can flash because they're athletes, but not a lot of guys on a down-to-down basis can come down or come in year 1, year 2 and be like a true plus starter. Demetrius Knight, I think, has the best chance to do that, but still, a linebacker that's 25, if he's not able to do that, you're probably not getting his ceiling until he's hitting 28, and that's kind of rough. Still a B+ for me. Like I said, true value-wise, it's not great, but he is the best linebacker left on the board, in my opinion. If you trade down out of the spot or you wait till the next round, you're probably not getting him. I understand it. I still like the player a lot. Not a bad player at all. Had 82 tackles, 8 TFLs, an interception, 3 forced fumbles, 2 sacks, and only 11 missed tackles on 82 total tackles, so not a whole lot of missed tackles, some nice ball production in terms of forcing the ball out, picking the ball off. Not a bad player at all. Was a 2023 first team ACC All-American Athletic Conference at Charlotte in 2023. Did not get any type of awards or nominations in 2024 outside of Carolina. Before South Carolina, he spent 1 year at Charlotte, and then before that, he spent 3 years playing and 4 years total at Georgia Tech. So that explains why he's coming in, with such an old age. We usually think like 23-year-old rookies are kind of older rookies, but with the COVID years and all that, a lot of these classes are much older than they usually are. The average age is a lot higher. And then you're going to get a lot more of these graduate kind of sixth year guys who are 24, 25. Not super surprising in this class, we should say. But after this year and the next, like this was the last year of the COVID classes. So after these next few years, it should start to sort of come back to normal. So not a terrible pick, not a great pick. It fills not a top 3 position in need, but still a position I really wanted them to look into. You know, if they weren't going to go interior line, interior D-line, or edge with their top 3 picks, linebacker was right next in the kind of order of needs for me. So I like that a lot for them. Just not super good position, or like in true value. Their next pick, they go Dylan Fairchild out of Georgia, a guard with pick 81, the 17th pick of the 3rd round. So again, no trade compensation so far for the Bengals. A lot of these beginning teams have not made a lot of moves, but like I said in the Packers video, don't get used to that. There's a lot of movement coming up in these later rounds, or in these later teams. So there's a lot of movement on day 3, just not with these guys. Now, this is a pick I was not a big fan of. Super kind of high ceiling type guy. He's a good athlete. He's full-sized at 6'5", 318. Didn't qualify for a RAS score, but on tape, this guy moves very well. He's seen him get out of his stance very well. Just doesn't move guys super well. You can see he doesn't see the game, super nuanced from a pass protection standpoint in terms of seeing stunts, twist, having a lot of nuance in his hands and matching his hands with his feet. Still got a decent amount to go. Not a bad player at all. This is someone that I think in 2 or 3 years is going to be a plus starter in the league due to the athleticism, due to the pass production he's had. I don't think he's a bad player at all. But he was the 6th guard taken off, or the 6th interior line in general taken off the board. He was my 12th one. I viewed Emory Jones, Miles Frazier, Wyatt Milum, Charles Grant, who I view more as a guard, but due to his arm length and his athleticism, I 100%, understand if you see him as a tackle. And then Jared Wilson as a center. I had all those guys above him. Jared Wilson is a center, so I understand them not going that direction. And then if you view Charles Grant as more of a tackle, plus he went to William and Mary, so I can understand not wanting to take that chance this early. But man, this guy just has so much farther to go than those other guys I named, in my opinion. Not a ton of movement in the run game. Needs more work in the pass game in terms of seeing. Just, like I said, 117 on my big board at pick 81. Don't love the value. There was a multitude of other guys I would have gone for their scheme and just at this position in general. Not a bad player. I think down the line he's going to be a good guard. I think he competes right away with Cordell Volson for a starting guard spot. Don't know how well he would do in his rookie year if he were to win that starting job. Just not the best value at this spot for me. I think if you wanted to take this guy, you probably could have waited till your 4th pick, could have traded down, got some more value. Had 536 pass block snaps, allowed 1 sack, 1 hit, and 1 hurry in 2024. So pretty nice production. Just again, pretty raw on tape, but a nice mover. I understand why they would want to go this direction, just not what I would do. Was a 2024 second-team All-American and second-team SEC player, and a 2-year starter at Georgia. This pick got a C for me. Again, not an absolutely terrible pick. I see the vision, but I don't love it. Now, Barrett Carter with their 4th pick. Again, no trade compensation. Pick 119, the 17th pick of the 4th round. Linebacker out of Clemson. This got a nice C, the vision. As we get into these day 3 grades, I'll have it also kind of talked about in the description, but teams don't draft the same way in day 3 as they do in day 1 and 2. Day 1 and 2 is much more BPA and BPA regarding a need. Like Shamar Stewart, they might not have him as the highest player on the board, but they might have him as the highest edge on their board, and they really need edge bad. So, Shamar Stewart. But in day 3, it's much more about adding kind of aspects of a position to a room, or adding true backups at certain positions. Your 3rd edge rusher, your deep threat wide receiver. Maybe it's a nickel back. Maybe you run a lot of 3 safety looks and it's your 3rd safety. Those are the kind of guys you're looking for in day 3. It's not true BPA. You might be like, there were 5 other dudes I liked in front of this wide receiver. Why did my team draft him? Well, your team really needs a deep threat, and he's a 6'3" wide receiver that runs a 4.3. So it makes sense for what they need for their room. Or I like this one interior pass rusher way more than this giant, run stuffing interior, but you don't have a lot of meat in your defensive line room, and your team gave up a ton of over yardage expected and yards per carry against the run. So you need some bigger, more early down guys in that room. That's kind of why the day 3 grading is a little bit more lax. It's not a true, letter grade. I grade it on I love it, I like it, I see the vision, and I don't get it. I love it is for guys that shouldn't have fallen to the pick you got to. Maybe it's due to a medical character concern, an off the field thing going on, something non-talent related that let them fall down to there, or maybe they just fell and I don't know about. But I love the pick because it's someone that shouldn't have fell to you. It's great value. It's someone that I think can compete for maybe not a starting role, but significant snaps or a role right now. Not a true starting 1 or 2 edge, but maybe your number 3 edge. Like we said, maybe it's your nickelback or your safety. Kind of like stuff like that. And then I like it is guys where I think you're right around where their value was. Maybe you took them a tiny bit early, or maybe you took them a tiny bit after, or a tiny bit of a fall, but right around the value I thought they were going to go. Maybe they don't compete for a starting job or a starting role right now, but they do compete for snaps, and they do compete with one of those roles. Even if they don't end up winning the job, they're still in a very competitive position to try to win that spot. I see the vision is maybe it's a guy that will compete for snaps right away. Maybe it fits a position in need, but in terms of where they're drafting, maybe you drafted a deep threat and there was much better deep threats down the board, or maybe you're drafting a true backup kind of lineman and there was much better lineman on the board, or a true backup quarterback and I didn't see that guy as a backup quarterback in the league. Kind of stuff like that where it's around the value where I thought you should have got him, but it's not a great pick. I would have gone somewhere else where it picks somebody else. And then I don't get it is you reached multiple rounds ahead, or you're drafting a guy in the 4th round to a super deep position room and he is going to have to fight just to make the roster. Maybe you drafted someone that in the 5th round that was viewed as kind of an undraftable type. Again, you probably could have waited, or you're drafting him in a spot where he might not even stay on the team in one of your earlier day 3 selections, kind of stuff like that. So those are the 4 kind of tiers. We start off with Barrett Carter, and I see the vision. Barrett Carter is a 6', 231 linebacker. Pretty nice movability, decent athleticism. Had posted a 7.46 RAS. Is going to be 23, kind of towards the earlier end of the season, but won't be 23 right when the season hits. This was more I see the vision just because of the Demetrius Knight pick. I like Barrett Carter. I don't think this is bad value at all. I think this is kind of right at the round of the range you're going to get him. This is kind of right where linebackers are just kind of starting to fly off the board. So if you want Barrett Carter, this is kind of the spot you have to take him. This is an I see the vision because although I do like him, you took Demetrius Knight in the 2nd. And even if Jermaine Pratt leaves after this season, then Barrett Carter is still fighting for your 3rd linebacker spot, maybe your 4th linebacker spot next year. And I don't really get that for a team that really needs help a multitude of positions. They really could have added IDL here, maybe add another outside corner that can compete for your corner 3 or your 3rd outside corner, if not your nickel. Maybe you get another safety that can compete with Jordan Battle and Geno Stone, because it's not like Geno Stone gave you the greatest play last year. I wouldn't hate them double dipping on edge instead of linebacker at this spot, or even interior guard instead of linebacker at this spot. I just think Barrett Carter doesn't have the clearest path to starting right now. It's going to be a fight for him to get on the field. I think if they have Logan Wilson and Jermaine as their starting 2 this year, Demetrius Knight comes in as the 3. He's the 4th linebacker. So he might not be getting a ton of snaps soon, and even after Jermaine Pratt leaves, he might not even be starting unless Demetrius Knight just really doesn't look good, and he does a lot more than him in camp. I just think he could have gone a lot of other positions in the spot that probably would have impacted your roster a little bit more. But again, I don't hate the pick at all. Jalen Rivers, pick 153, the 17th pick of the 5th round. Again, no trade compensation. A tackle, someone who I think can flex inside to guard if you really wanted him to. He kind of has that ability to, but all the athleticism and length to stay out of tackle. Coming out of Miami, he's 6'6", 319, going to be 23 during the season. Not going to be 23 when he hits the season, though. Not a bad mover. I thought he had some decent athleticism, enough athleticism to play out at left tackle, but didn't test super well. Had a 6.64 RAS, but still, I think he has the athleticism to play out at left tackle. Someone who still can move to guard if you want. If they really wanted him to play year one, I could see him, competing for one of those spots. Not terrible production this year on 348 pass block snaps. He allowed 1 sack, 1 hit, and 7 hurries. Was a 2024 Big 12 honorable mention in his first year at Miami. He spent the prior 4 years at Princeton, so a big step up in competition, and he handled it decently well. I like this for them. This is a guy who has all the size, has enough movement ability to be a starting tackle. A little bit raw still, but someone with flexibility that can move inside or outside on your line that needs a lot of help right now. Even if he doesn't provide a ton of help right now, I think this is a high development backup. You're getting him in the 5th. I think this is right around the spot you're going to be able to get him. I like this for them. Doubling up on O-line, even if it isn't a true interior, again, is one of their needs. I thought if they're going to double up anywhere, probably edge or just line in general, even if it's not the same 2 positions on line. And then with their last pick, the 193rd pick 17 of the 6th round, they take Taj Brooks, a running back out of Texas Tech. I love this pick, man. I really, really love this pick. I thought Taj Brooks was someone who could have gone in the back end of the 4th, maybe even kind of top of the 5th. This is a very, very deep running back class. I'm sure if any of you have been keeping up with any of the draft talk, you've heard how good this running back class is, how deep this running back class is. And, not everyone's not just saying that just because. It's true. Taj Brooks is someone that I think can immediately come in and compete to be one of the main factors of that committee. They have Chase Brown, they have Zach Moss, they have Samaje Perine. I wouldn't be surprised if Taj Brooks competed with those guys, and if he showed enough in camp, was the number 2 or number 3 guy right away. I expect him to at least be the number 3 guy right away over Samaje. I wouldn't be surprised if he's the number 2 guy, and I wouldn't be surprised if he is kind of the main guy next year or even at the end of this year, depending on what happens in that running back room. I like Taj Brooks a lot. Again, I thought he could have gone a lot higher than this. Someone who I wouldn't be surprised comes in and immediately competes in this room. This is someone who is a just super compact running back with nice speed and some decent balance. I think he adds to this room right now. Had some nice production this year with 1,500 rush yards, 5.3 yards per carry, and 17 touchdowns. Had some pretty nice receiving production as well with 200 yards and a touchdown. Not elite, but you can throw in some dump-offs and stuff like that. Had 2 fumbles on the season, both in the same game, so it's not like there's a whole lot of concern there with him holding on to the ball. In 2024, he was a second-team Big Ten selection and a Big 12 Coach Scholar Athlete of the Year. He also set the Texas Tech records for career attempts and career rushing yards. So a lot of traction on the wheels is not a great thing. Probably part of the reason he falls to day 7. Doesn't have a super elite trait in any facet, but an overall very solid back with plus athleticism, very low center of gravity and compact size. I think he adds to this room. I really like this. In terms of value, this is probably their best true value pick, in my opinion. Again, not a bad class overall. A class that has very high potential, a lot of high potential guys, but if they don't hit the ceiling on at least half of these picks, it's going to look like a really, really washed class for them. Shamar Stewart, again, going to probably be starting right away for them. Super high ceiling type guy. This guy can be an all-world type edge rusher if he can hit his ceiling. But if he doesn't, probably an early down guy. Demetrius Knight, probably the best true starting linebacker left on the board at that point. But if he doesn't hit his ceiling, he's going to be a semi-athletic, okay starter. Dylan Fairchild, if he hits his ceiling, he's going to be starting guard and a real plus starter in this league. But he might not be a starter this year for them, and if he can't hit his ceiling, then he's going to be another question mark on this O-line full of question marks. Barrett Carter has the upside to be a starter on this team, but is the second linebacker taken in this class, and it's going to be behind 3 dudes. So you don't know how clear his path is to playing immediately. Jalen Rivers, really like this pick for them as a high development kind of backup, full-sized, decent mover type of lineman. I think he fits what they do there well. And then Taj Brooks, a very, very nice running back, even if he doesn't have the ceiling of like a top 5 guy. I think he adds to this room now and has an ability to be a starter for this team down the road, even if it isn't immediately. Overall, again, not a bad class, has a very high potential, but a very high potential to also be a disappointing class as well. And that's why I have it more towards the B- ranking. If you guys enjoyed, please let me know. Please go check out the 49ers at 31 and the Packers at 32. Again, after this weekend, I'm going to be trying to make these all fly out as fast as I can, so you guys aren't all waiting on your favorite team. But I really do appreciate all the support. I appreciate it if you really made it this far. Even if you don't leave anything down below, if you watch this far, that's really cool to me, man. The fact that you want to listen to me ramble about football for that long means the world. So I really do appreciate it. Thank you guys, and I hope you have a good day.